All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this school board meeting to order at 7:02. Could I please get a roll call?
Yes. John Woodworth.
Here.
Jack Sapia.
Here.
Paul LeCain.
He is excused.
Bree Woodworth.
Yes,
Kim
here.
McCormick.
Here.
Shauna Manthorn.
She's excused.
Katie Knudsen.
Here.
Kristen Savage. Here. And Mark Sherwood.
Yes.
Everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Next is going to be approval of the minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of April 20th.
I'll second.
Motion by Kristen, second by Kim. Any discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Passes. 7-0-0. Do we have any non-public meeting minutes? None? Okay. We don't have any delegates or individuals, do we?
No, we don't.
Okay. Student rep?
He is unable to make it tonight. He sends his regrets.
Okay. All right, which moves us to current business, and I am going to be moving one agenda item for the personnel report up before the high school boilers, and I'm going to let Justin introduce this individual.
Awesome. So just wanted to take the brief time tonight and move the personnel report out. I know that we've kept you folks engaged, that we've been looking for a principal over at Sandown North. We went through a process of reviewing 20 applicants. We had screened 15 of them. We invited 7 in for a first round interview. We moved 4 forward to the second round. And Laura Yasak is here with us tonight as the strong consensus from that first round group and that second round group. She brings a tremendous skill set, some experience in the principal position previously in another school in another district, and we just feel incredibly strongly for what she's going to be able to add not only to Sandown North but the principal team here across Timberlane. So Laura's here with us tonight. She can certainly come up to one of these 2 microphones. She'd like an opportunity just to kind of introduce herself.
Thank you.
And she's more than happy to either field any general questions that any of the board members have for her as she begins this endeavor with us fairly shortly. So Laura, welcome.
Thank you. I first want to thank the search committee, and I want to thank all of you for this opportunity. I am super excited to join Sandown North. For those of you who may not know, I come to you with 25 years of experience in education, beginning as a classroom teacher to a curriculum coordinator, an assistant principal, and a principal the last 5 years. So I come to you with a lot of experience that I'm excited to bring to Sandown North for the staff, the students, and the community as a whole. I'm super excited to also collaborate with the school and district administration to hopefully work on a really great transition plan, because I know how important it is when a principal leaves, the worries, the question marks of staff and students, right? And especially if it's this late in the year. We don't want them going home in the summer and wondering, who is Mrs. Jasek? We're going to come back in August. Who is she? And so I hope that that transition plan works out where I can spend some time at the school, meet the staff and the students before they go away for the summer, so those worries are gone and they're excited to come back in August. But again, thank you so much for this opportunity, and I'm excited to work with all of you.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for speaking with us. Jack, did you have something you wanted to say?
As a young man who spent a lot of time in the principal's office, welcome aboard.
And it's not always a bad place. It's also a great place.
It was very special.
We'll send them back to you.
Yeah, send them there. You're welcome anytime.
Did any other board member want to make a comment? No?
No, just welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
And if I will, could I go ahead and have a motion to accept the administrative nomination? Mark?
I'll make that motion
I'll
to
second.
accept.
And I will second it.
All right, motioned and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? And abstained?
Thank you
Welcome
so much.
aboard.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Right. We will do the rest of the personnel back at the personnel report when we get to it. Next is the high school boilers. I believe Carl and EEI are coming on down.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Evening, Carl.
Good evening, Mike Davey with EEI, and back here, Chris Roy with EEI. I wanted to introduce.
Okay.
He is project superintendent with EEI, and last year and a half has been doing a bunch of projects at Hollis Brookline School, and he will be overseeing the summer projects for EEI on site. So he'll be a pretty familiar face. So, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Hi.
So, just as a quick recap, we do have a PowerPoint. I told Maria I could talk about boilers for an hour or two, but I know it's a long agenda, so I'll try and keep it high level. It's a topic that I'm excited about, but I know not everyone is. So I'll just
We'll stay late.
I do have a pretty good PowerPoint if we want to do some high level photos.
Yep.
But just I think that's there. But I'll just give you a quick overview. I'll just show you some pictures just because we did some homework. I'll come back to that. But see these boilers here? There are 6 of those that do the high school. They're Airco boilers, and they're at end of life. They're pretty small. You typically wouldn't install 6 little boilers at a high school. So to give you an idea, Central High School, which is much bigger than Timberlane High School in Manchester, has 2 boilers. And there's 6 little boilers and 2 big boilers at Timberlane High School. The 6 original ones were put in about 20 years ago. And then when the PAC was built, they decided to connect it to the high school load and put underground piping in. And that those ones are a couple years newer than these.
you.
So there's 6 little ones and then 2 smaller ones that we call the PAC boilers, so 8 total. And the school district or the voters passed replacing the high school boilers as part of a separate warrant article. They allocated $950,000 to do that. We did a analysis, and if you call the high school boilers the 6 small ones, the original ones, and replace the 2 PAC boilers, we could consolidate all of that plant to 4 high mass, 99% efficient Lochinvar boilers. And that came in at about $925,000, so under the amount that was allocated. When we were doing preliminary engineering on the PAC boilers, we did find that there's some evidence of corrosion in the PAC boiler pipes. So that's a pipe that goes underground from the high school boiler room and then comes up at the PAC. We are going to replace this corroded as part of the project if it's approved. However, the underground pipe, which we don't know if it's corroded, but there's a process called electrolysis where pipes that are close to electrical pipes buried can sometimes corrode. And so Chris had an underground survey or ground penetrating radar survey so that we see where the electrical lines are close to this underground pipe. And we did want to at least give the option to the board when we're doing all this new boilers at the high school, do we want to, and we are going to replace this part that's obviously corroded, but we wanted to give you an option for us to replace the underground section as well. We aren't 100% sure if it's corroded, so there's kind of 2 options. One, we can just replace the part that we know is bad and then pressure test it, or if you want to use some funds from fund balance, we could replace this section of pipe and separate it from the electric. So run it several feet away from this and use a different piping material that'll be an insulated plastic material that won't be subject to this type of corrosion. Yep.
So just how much would it cost to do that testing versus the replacement of the pipe?
So the testing won't cost anything because we're going to do it as part of this anyway. It's like a pressure test. Okay. The only thing you won't know for sure, even with that pressure test,
right,
if the corrosion is on the outside of the pipe. So this isn't something where I'm saying you have to do this, but it's something that I wanted to at least bring to the attention of the board and say, rather than someone say, hey, why didn't you do that? We'd rather just say, hey, this is what it would cost. Then the other thing is the high school water heater is functioning fine, but it's also an older piece of equipment, and we have an option to replace that as part of this. And so I brought those forward to Maria and Carl, and they said, hey, we can bounce that off this group. And here's a quick pricing matrix. So to replace the 8 Airco boilers servicing the PAC in the high school, the estimated cost is $925,000. It'll yield $12,500 in annual maintenance and energy savings. And like we would go from 8 to 4 boilers, so 4 much larger boilers, and we will get a one-time rebate of estimated $32,000. So that's money that wasn't counted on, that's coming in, $32,000 in rebate funds. If we wanted to tackle the hot water heater, that would be about $108,000. And then to dig up and repipe this pipe that goes from the high school to the PAC would be about $150,000. So you had $950,000 as the warrant article. If you were to do all 3 of these things, you would need an additional $233,000. Or we can, again, just stick with the boiler project that was passed, and that would be a $25,000 surplus plus a $32,000 rebate coming in. So right now, we wanted to bring this forward, and if you wanted to consider using fund balance to do these extra projects, we could do that this summer.
Mark, go ahead.
Question, you had said if we did indeed dig it up, you'd move it so we're several feet away from the
Yes.
electric, but I thought you'd also said it was going to be plastic, insulated plastic, so is there a need to move it further away from the electric if we're replacing metal with
Well, I'll
plastic?
show you,
Is-
not necessarily, except where it is now, it goes under pavement, and it's fairly close to that modular. So those blue lines are where that water line runs. And so if we put it right back where it is now, it'd be.
Okay, suboptimal location,
Right.
not because it's being separated by
That's
the
right.
electric. Okay.
That's right. Yep. So those were the reasons that, and we'd have a civil engineer design that location as part of it.
And how old are the pipes that are there now?
They are probably 20 years old.
And what's a normal life of
Lifespan.
something?
No, normally, I mean, 75 to
So if we don't do this,
Mm-hmm.
and then we find out that the pipes are corroded and something happens, are we potentially damaging our boilers? Are we, like, what are our liabilities on the other end? And what would, like, if all of a sudden we say, don't do it, we're gonna take our chance,
If
and
you
then it
don't do
corrodes,
it,
what happens?
if you don't do it, what I would recommend is an enhanced filter to protect the boilers from, that grabs metals from the pipe. So if you don't want to do it, we would put in a more robust.
And how much would that cost?
And how often would you have to replace that filter?
It's one of those things, it depends on how much metallics are in the pipe from corrosion.
But how much are the filters, though?
So I don't, that's a quick answer. I mean, a filter like that, top of the line would be 15,000 to get it installed.
Okay.
And then it can be cleaned or replaced depending on which type it is.
Is there a reason why you have to have the PAC connected to the boiler system at the high school? Is that the most efficient way, to do this? Because I know it's hard enough with the high school with all the different zones to get everything
Yeah, go ahead.
squared away, and working at all systems all the time. And you add the PAC to it, it seems like a complication of that.
Well, unfortunately, the PAC doesn't have its own boilers. We did look at the option of putting boilers in there. However, there's no space. We'd have to take a bunch of their storage space to put them in there. It was one of the options we looked at, and we're just like, yeah, they just don't have the space.
You know how this is gonna go. If we don't replace the
Oh, yeah.
pipes, the pipes are gonna, you know exactly how
The
this is
same
gonna
thing
play
that
out,
happened at
right?
the Pollard boilers, the amount of issues we had with the Pollard boilers until we got those pipes out and the filters put in. It
So
was years of us.
I see this option for $925,000 with the 8. We're gonna replace it with 4 boilers,
That's correct.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. And there's no way of, is there a way of looking at the digging, doing a test dig outside the pipes and kind of taking a,
Visual.
That was Chris. Chris thought we could we could mobilize, do the test, and just see if it's corroded in one spot. We can't get everywhere though, because you can see how close it is to the modular.
Move
and-
the mod.
Yeah.
Because the only thing I'm struggling with, if you had said that they have a 35 life year expectancy or a 50-year life expectancy, the pipes, to your point, I would have said, you know what, replace the pipes. But when you're talking 75 years, it's almost like, I'm almost thinking that that the pipes themselves have a long life expectancy, but who knows around here?
I also want to say that we do have pipes that go all the way around the high school and it feeds the sprinkler system. Those are leaking.
Those are all corroded.
Yep.
I mean,
Those are all
it's a
corroded and
sandy-
leaking right now, so I
No,
don't.
if it's the
Hold
same
on,
ma-
hold on. Let Mark go.
Do we know if it's the same material? The ones, I wouldn't think
Uh,
so,
they're
feeding the
steel.
springs.
They're steel.
Do we know if it's the same steel?
I don't know.
So we have a fairly.
Hold on, let Don go. You've
Oh,
done
I'm
it.
sorry.
Go ahead,
I
Don.
guess it's a matter of like, how do things potentially work together from the capital improvement plan list of connecting the middle school and the high school to the PAC. You know, if in doing something like that, you could also incorporate a boiler room, is that something that's more efficient and would run longer, you know, without repairs and complications of carrying water from
So
one area that, you know, wasting a lot of, I would imagine, heat along the way, you know, trying to dedicate something on the other side of the high school to the Performing Arts Center.
So I looked, it was gonna be we did price that, and it was gonna be substantially more expensive to build a second boiler room in the PAC, and we would have to take, equipment storage. So we looked at it, and it was gonna be so of that 925,000, it was gonna be, I think, a couple $100,000 more to run a because you'd have to run a gas line there now, there's no gas line. And then we'd have to do some architectural work to build a space and then put the boilers there. So it's a lot more cost efficient. And you're not losing much when you're buried below ground. If you think, like, we use geothermal for heating and cooling buildings, so being 4 or 5 feet below grade, you're in insulated pipe, you're not losing much efficiency by going underground. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that if the top is that corroded, then the bottom is probably gonna be just as corroded. And it sounds like the pipes wasn't put in the right place anyways, right? It should have been farther away, is that not correct?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. So,
You didn't do it, be honest.
but someone did.
I was in college when that happened.
What,
No, go ahead, Kristen, go ahead.
so, separating the two, the water heater again. What's the benefit? I mean, now is later, I mean, just looking at the price, I mean,
Yeah,
if we're
it's-
trying to figure this out and what makes the most sense.
Yeah, I mean, that water heater should last another 3 or 4 years, but we're in there now, so you get some economy of design and
Okay.
construction to get it done now. So that's the only reason to consider it.
So if we wait 3 or 4 years and have to have somebody come back to do that separately,
It'll probably be a bit more, yeah.
well, like
A bit.
10,000 more or double price more? I mean,
I think you get about a 15% savings by having it done together.
Go ahead, Bree.
I was wondering, one, if we were to dig in a grassy, not paved area to assess part of the underground pipe, how much roughly would that cost?
Less, I hate throwing wing numbers out, but you have to mobilize equipment to do it, and then we have to find a spot where there's nothing else, but I'd say, 15,000 and tops.
Okay.
Yeah.
and then we have to repair the area.
Yeah,
You have to, yeah.
even though it's grass.
And
Yes,
then
Mark, go
my
ahead.
other-
No.
Oh, sorry, finish, Bree, sorry.
Thanks. My other question is, are you having supply issues with any of these boilers or water heaters or items right now?
Not significant with these, yeah.
As far as heat production?
No,
Oh.
getting the
Oh, just
material
get-
to do this.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
As of right now, boilers and hot water heaters are not massive lead times. It's electrical and HVAC equipment that has crazy long, like the ventilation on the roof. But right now, boilers are still reasonably available.
Mark, did you have something you wanted to say?
No, I was raising my hand because I was thinking I could dig a ditch for less than $15,000, judging on that, by that picture I used to do during the summer.
Yeah.
And just looking at the cost, the 115, if the filter is 15,000, there's no, I've encountered pipes, and I'm sure you have as well, that above grade are completely different than below grade, just because of the temperature differentials. Below grade is always at that, 55 degrees or whatever that we have in New England. My inclination is, let's try to save the money up front. We put in the filters, and if the filters all of a sudden start accumulating a lot more junk, then we know it's imminent failure. Or not imminent, but, something is happening in the inside. If the filters stay clean, well, then maybe they live up to their life expectancy, and we don't have to pay for it for another 30 years. My 2 cents.
My-
So to that, I want to add something. So we had a similar problem at Pollard. We installed new boilers before we were here, so I think they're like 6 years old, 7 years old.
5 years old.
5 years old. They failed because of the water. Basically, I think the main problem is the Plasto water because it has a lot of minerals on it.
Those have filters?
They do now.
So
Did they before?
No.
The answer is no, and so that would have mitigated and prevented them from failing. So I'm saying, if we spend $15,000 on a filter, and we can push off spending an extra $150,000 up front for another decade.
would it last another decade?
Yeah, if we're not getting any corrosion back in those filters, so the filters are magnetic, and so if
Right,
if you're getting
it'll catch the filings.
what you're saying is right, and so we could, if we put the filters in, and then we're getting tons and tons of metal on them, then we can
Then
come
we
back
know.
to you guys right away and
Yeah,
say,
right.
you'd probably have to wait till the next summer to do it.
Having a filter is just as inexpensive or as expensive as digging a trench.
Cheaper than
I guess that's what I'm
than-
saying.
yeah, it's the
I
same
mean,
as
it
the
says
dig.
15 about 15,000. either way.
15,000 per filter or for the 4 boilers filters?
It's you'd have one filter on the
On all of them,
return,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, so my question is, say we go with the filter, and then we're like, okay, there's definitely stuff in there, we need to fix that. Then how much is that gonna cost, and what's to go back?
Well, then you're back to spending the full 150, and you're the only, and I don't think that would go up drastically from this summer to the next. I think 150 is kind of conservative anyway. But what if it happens in the winter, you just won't be able to do it till the summer. That's just because it's going to be so disruptive. So that would be the only.
Jack, go ahead.
Do you think our soil content, because we tend to have very sandy soil, do you think the soil content would have anything to do with the corrosion of the pipes? And I'm just trying to think out loud here where loam reacts differently than sand, and I know, I mean, right, Kyle, this is all sand around the buildings, right?
Where's it dumped?
You get down a
Right.
few feet.
I didn't say that.
I mean, definitely, subsurface conditions definitely increase potential failure.
I'm trying to narrow down what we
Yeah.
should do here. I kind of agree with Mark is, we put the filter on, we don't get anything great, we get another 50 years. If we do start getting those metals, then we gotta come up and invest later on to do the right thing and change out the pipes.
Yep.
And it's less, the filter is a lot less disruptive than the dig. That just seems to make a heck of a lot of sense to me.
And it's the same
I hate
cost as
to
the dig,
agree with
right?
you, but it's true.
Bree, go ahead.
I have a question. Is it possible to place the filter before doing all of the new construction work?
Yes, it is possible. My only hesitation is we'd be repiping the whole thing this summer, so then we'd have to move it and reconfigure it. But
So what good would it do, right?
yeah, you'd
Well, you could tell if it was
Well, you
horribly
don't know if
corroded
it's-
before you start on the project and then get it all done together.
I don't know that for sure if I could get that done in time, because your boilers are probably almost offline, if they're not already offline for
No,
the
they're
year.
still online. It's 40 degrees outside.
Okay. But usually in May and June, there's not too much boiler runtime. So, and we'll be demoing these things in June. So, probably not on that one.
So if they're corroded from the outside, are the filters going to show that?
Yeah.
No.
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 So if they're corroded from the outside, we're not gonna know that. The filters, we might say, oh, great, we put these filters on and they're not corroded. And then what happens if all of a sudden they corrode through,
Do an emergency repair.
which you just said is not ideal to do during the winter?
And if it happens in the winter, yeah, we can do it on.
And what's an emergency repair gonna cost us in the winter? Because that's when it's gonna happen. I mean, that's all, we know that, so what's it gonna cost us to
Happen
do
during
that?
heating season.
Yeah, I don't know. It depends on when and how cold it is and how much frost there is that we gotta
And is that how many days? Is it a 1 day or is that like a 5 day that we're shutting down school because we have no heat to any of
Yeah,
our
it would just be the
buildings?
pack, but it
Would
would,
just be the pack?
yeah, because that's,
You could isolate that loop.
yeah, you could isolate that loop, so. I think this is at least a week project at minimum.
And if it's 20 below zero, that's a lot of broken pipes.
I'm more of the mindset of an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So me personally, I feel like we should just go ahead and replace the stuff because we don't know if it's on the outside, like what you guys said, if it's in the middle of winter, how long that's going to last. Go ahead, Kim.
Well, I agree with
Okay.
what you're saying. I just wanted to ask, and this is just the newness for me, we go forward with it, and where does that $233,000 come from?
Yeah.
So we have the capital funds for next year that we actually added $1 million in capital for the regular budget.
That's a big chunk of it, though. I mean, is that?
200,000.
Bingo.
So it's $200,000. Either we can do that, or we can use 200,000 out of the fund balance and cover it this year, and we start the year with our $2 million of capital. My personal opinion is, when you look at the big picture, is yes, it's $200,000, but it's $200,000 that is taking care of brand new boilers, brand new pipe, and brand new hot water. The high school heating system is done. Everything encompassed, and we're done.
So let me ask this, if you don't mind. Do you need an answer tonight? And the other question is, I would ask each person in this room, if this was your house and your money, and I'm gonna ask you, if this was your house and your money, how, there's the 75-year life expectancy versus the outlay of cash, which we need to be responsible about, versus making sure that the thing doesn't blow up and we make a bad decision in January, we're looking at replacing the pipe. So it's,
If it was my house, I would definitely do the hot water heater, and I would either do the filter or replace the underground. And what would make my decision is let's say it was my house, and the pack was one room in my house. How much of a problem would it be to lose that for a week in the winter? Would be, how.
to his point though, having pipes blow up would be catastrophic.
It would be a lot more
Right.
money.
Yeah.
But we'd have insurance to pay for it then.
Did you have something you wanted
Just
to
a question about the operation of the units and the program that you have used over time to, track how the building's being heated, and you're able to adjust it on a computer, so usually you have somebody trained to do that. Is it all compatible with these boilers, and the
So-
program is going to be the same? You don't
Right
have to-
now, the high school boilers were on an old BMS system that was made by Airco, and that failed in November. We've been running the boilers manually all winter long.
So is that the plan moving forward?
We would have brand new controls for everything in there, including the VFDs. We'd be able to I can actually show you what we see at the middle school versus what we see at the high school.
Okay.
And this is what we would see, only instead of 2 boilers, we'd see all 4 boilers, the pumps and where they're running, what their run hours are and everything like that.
Right, so you're already trained on this?
Oh, yeah, I've been
Did somebody
doing
else
this
do
for
it with you, or is it?
Well, my HVAC mechanic's also trained. We also have Control Technologies that comes and does the PMs on on all our controls to make sure that our service maintenance agreements are upkept so that we can get any updates from the manufacturers when they update programs and stuff. They come here quite frequently, probably about monthly, in touch, something in our building.
The other,
Kristen's going to go next.
If he has one more.
Okay, go ahead.
the only other question I have is, when I see us replacing the hot water, say we were to replace the hot water heater, you think the annual savings for the entire high school would only be $2,000? I mean, it just,
Kids don't shower at school anymore.
Because there's no hot water.
There's reasons for that.
So, first of all, the hot water heaters are not gas operated or electric operated. They're heated by the water from the boilers. They're tube heaters, so
Right.
the hot water just circles through, so it's really.
Kristen,
So, I mean, this is gonna be a stupid, like, I look at that picture, that's clearly corroded from the outside.
yeah.
So to put
So that worries me that that's what we might have underground, because How does that get that bad? I mean, but that is underground technically, or?
Well, that's right where it comes up.
It's
from
right,
underground.
so, okay.
Yeah.
It's behind the storage racks in the storage area of the band room.
Kind of where it's coming up
way
from the
out of
ground,
sight.
so-
You have to bend your neck, which hurts. But
Okay. But like, I look at that picture and that worries me, to think that, and to think we have $1 million investment that we're doing
Yeah.
with new boilers that we're gonna basically say, you know, we're gonna roll the dice and see what happens. So that's what's concerning me to not do it. And I get what you're saying with the filters and everything, but if we do the filters and all of a sudden that this is corroded like that from the outside and we have a problem midwinter and now we might damage our boilers or, I just think it's a big risk to take when, I mean, and I know like, that's why I asked the question, like, what's the life on these? And you're telling me 75 years. And I'm like, well, I hope in 75 years we get a new school, but, but I don't know that that will happen. So, I mean, I just look at it that I think if we're doing the upgrade, we talk about putting lipstick on a pig.
Yeah.
And not doing this, I think, is basically, we're trying to invest in our schools right now with the lease that we just did and everything else. And I think we have to do it the right way and not take a risk, because I don't want to be sitting here in January next year hearing we have boiler problems again after we just put them in.
Mark?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I agree. We have 6 different boilers. Eight?
Eight.
Okay. I'm assuming this picture, it shows more corrosion than any of the others. So this is the anomalous one. I guess that's my point. And it looks as if it's happening in a joint. I guess if it were my home and I had my water heater, somebody come in to repair it or look at it, they said, hey, you have a lot of sediment. We can either replace the heater for $1,500 or get you a filter for $150. If it was my house, I think I'd do the $150. And that's how I'm trying to look at it, as if this were, coming out of my checking account. And if it's 1 out of 8, and this is the most corroded, this is the anomalous one.
Mark, I'm sorry, I think you're misunderstanding. All the boilers are hooked up in series, or in parallel, in parallel, so they all feed this. They're all going, this goes to all the boilers.
That's as the water comes into the pack after it leaves the boiler room.
So they're all connected.
So that comes back to the entire boiler loop. All 4 new boilers will be hooked to this.
All 4 will be hooked to
Hooked to
this.
this.
So
Yeah.
is there a reason, so I'm not following the flow, every pun intended. Thank you. So is the water that is going through there also going through the high school?
Yes.
Yeah.
So why are we just looking at that one section between, next to the pack, rather than everything, because if the water's the same?
Well, so our assumption is that the corrosion is being caused, and this is not 100%, this is our assumption.
Yeah.
Is that the corrosion is being caused by electrolysis on the underground line on this section of pipe. And so that's where you're seeing the most corrosion.
Because that section of pipe was placed where it shouldn't have been.
That's right,
Okay.
yeah.
So one
Last one,
last
Jack. Go-
thing,
Yep,
yeah.
go ahead, Jack.
Now, because I am so perplexed by this, I think we do the dig and see exactly what we have for the pipe. And that will tell us exactly if we have 50 more years or 3 months. And it's just it's $200,000. Let's invest 15 grand. Find out actually, isn't it better to have the right information on the front end and find out exactly what we're dealing with? If that's bad pipe, let's fix it. Let's take care of it for all the reasons everyone stated. The only way we're going to find that out for sure, barring the filter, I like your idea about the filter, but it's the same amount of money. Let's find out exactly what we have.
Kim,
What
and
if
then
you-
Bree.
What if you dig and it is bad, and now we have to wait to get the pipe?
Well, so what I would recommend then is the board authorize up to that amount to repair it, but then if Carl inspects it or whoever wants to inspect it and says, no, this is beautiful pipe the whole way, and we leave it, then you only spend the 15 and we'll or whatever.
That makes sense,
amount.
right?
Bree, yeah.
That was pretty much gonna be.
So if you dig a piece of the pipe to do the testing, that wouldn't cover the entire pipe, right? So if a piece, like I'm saying, that piece is awful, but
The pipe is in the wrong place.
Yeah,
Not
we
the whole-
wouldn't do the whole line,
line.
we'd
Pipe is
probably
in
do
the wrong place.
two tests.
You'd know.
Two tests.
You'd know, though.
Yeah, that's fine.
That makes sense. Make the motion, Jack.
I make a motion, no.
Hold on, did you have a question?
No, I'm just trying to take all this in and think about it.
My thing
When
is,
are we working on, I mean,
This summer.
It's a lot.
so, I mean, if we vote tonight, are you gonna be working on this in the next 2 weeks? So is this something we can kind of really take in and think about now that we've had this presentation and really consider it? Because
Yeah.
it's a big, I don't wanna make a rush judgment on it. I look at it that this is something I think I wanna think about a little bit more.
Does this hold you up at all?
Not this piece of it, because as long as we're okay with the bigger picture, getting the boilers designed and all that, and this is the one-off, then no.
Bree,
Should we consider though the water heater? Because we're doing 4 boilers, but also it was the discussion of adding the water heater.
do you need a decision on the water heater today?
It would be preferable.
Do we want to make a decision on
just
the
to
water
get the
heater,
equipment.
but then,
I'm not sure where I would go with it, because I think it might all depend on what I would do, what the
Yeah.
cost of the pipe would be.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
then again,
But then again,
So-
we're
yeah,
only.
my
gonna s-
thing is that the pipe is not in the right place to begin with. The pipe being put in the wrong place is what caused a big thing of the corrosion, correct?
That's our assumption.
and my other problem is we have pipes all over the grounds that we know are already corroded. So if we start screwing with the pipes, do we run the risk of damaging the other pipes
I mean,
too?
that's why we did the ground penetrating radar, so we don't
Okay.
break.
You'd be buying us new pipes.
Yeah.
Hopefully you run into a couple other pipes
Yeah.
while you're down there and find out what else is going on down there.
Now I have, if we do this work, if we went this route, I mean, clearly we're finding out now pipes were put in wrong spots and things, it's, it's kind of the trend around here. Is there any type of a warranty with you that if we do
Wait.
this, that, we're covered for so long, that
We
we're
would
not
put in
sitting
a,
here?
I mean, I don't, typically there's a 1-year parts and labor, but we would put in a pipe that's not susceptible to corrosion.
Well, what do we want to do? Because I think we've talked quite a bit. Do we want to hold off for a little bit and think about it, or do we want to make?
I don't have a problem holding off, but I just soon let these guys start coordinating their work and organizing it. And again, I think until we know exactly what's going on, none of us are gonna, unless we tell them to go ahead and spend the 200 plus K, right? Which I kinda, if everything is fine, why would we wanna spend that money? I think the 15 grand is the best money we'll spend, finding out exactly what we have. And then, you know what, then if we have to spend the 200, we know we have to spend it. And if we don't, then that is something we can allocate to something out of the $116 million worth of work we have to do around here. Right, we get a whole treasure chest of opportunities of spending that money. I want to make sure we spend it where it needs to be spent. So I'd like the 15.
Kim?
I agree with what you're saying, and there's a real big piece of me that is agreeing with you, but just to hear the fact that we could just complete the entire heating system in the high school by doing this one piece that we can assume with the picture there has at least some corrosion and it's in the wrong place. So we could just and I know I'm not belittling $233,000. That's a lot of money. We passed this warrant article to get stuff done. And in order to get stuff done, we could complete the whole system and just do this by taking money out of the capital reserve. And I know there's an X amount of money in capital reserve, and I know it's allocated for certain things, but this feels like a bigger thing. I shouldn't say bigger. This feels like a big thing. So that's my thought.
Yeah.
What other projects do we have coming up that we might find similar issues with?
You want me to get my computer?
No, I mean, seriously,
just-
I'm
yeah, like off the
it's
top
like
of your head.
everything that we touch, is it gonna be like, guess what, guys? I mean, like,
Well, this summer we're only
Everything.
doing lights and
Yeah.
the HVAC system, so hopefully nothing, no surprises there, right, Mike?
So this summer, the major projects that are planned are, the federal funding, middle school rooftop units, and a new roof for the middle school. We are,
Danville boilers.
and Danville boilers. and
Danville
then-
boilers and some controls.
And lighting, yeah, and then
Some
two
roofs.
Yeah, I don't anticipate any issues like this coming up. I didn't anticipate this one either, but.
I feel like I'm watching one of the TV shows Flip This House, you know?
No, those are cheap.
Well, I know,
$50,000 for a new kitchen.
I'm in agreement with Kim, though. This $233,000 is a substantial amount of money, but for me, the factor is the fact that this pipe is in the wrong place to begin with. So if we go ahead and do this and we move it, and like what Kim said, it completely fixes everything, we have that opportunity right now. Even if we look at that pipe and, you all dig and you're like, oh yeah, it's good, the fact is it's still not where it should be. And so my thinking is just to go ahead and approve the 233,000 up to, and then just kind of go from there, but it's the will of the board.
so when you say it's in the wrong place, my understanding is the corrosion that we see is because of, was put close to electric. Do we know that that's the case along the whole line of the pipe, or is it just in that one spot?
Do you know that?
So, there's a number of utilities that come out of the high school, including a bunch of data, fire sprinklers, those two distribution lines for the boilers, and also for the domestic hot water, and then all the electricity comes down through there. And where they come out of the wall, they share a trench of pipes similar to this, and then they deviate. They take like a 90, and we have reason to believe that they all kind of follow the same.
They all follow the same path?
So we would do a new path, away from this, away from the rest of it. And also, I mean, if the modular was there, they wouldn't have run it that close to the modular. I assume that came after the fact, yeah.
A new path and new material.
And new
So that
material.
wouldn't,
And a new material
corrode.
that's not subject to corrosion.
We just approved a dig, and
If I may, that path would have to be, unless we were to drop her out, those modulars would be to come towards that walkway and come down the walkway, separating it from the electrical.
So does that cost include the
Yes.
repaving of that area?
Yes.
Okay.
So the boilers are still in the same spot where they've been, and you're not disrupting the ground there anywhere? Because there's a lot of electrical coming into the building there, and it's very close to the boiler.
Yeah, there's nothing going on, disrupting on the ground there. Except the pipes that's leaking, the fire sprinkler
So-
line that I mentioned earlier, that's leaking out that area, so. We're well aware, we've done.
Is that a corrosive factor too,
And that's not there, we're doing that through Busby.
And so it's, and the price includes excavation, repavement, coring through the foundation to get back up.
Well, I think we've discussed this quite a bit. What do we want to do now? Do we want to make a motion to dig and look and then make repairs if needed, or do we want to give them the authority to fix all of it?
I'd like to make the motion to have them dig and look at it. If somebody offered me a $15 test that could save me spending $233, I'd buy the $15 test, and that's what we're doing. 15,000 as opposed to 233,000. I just took off some zeros.
So clean up your motion a little bit for Linda.
Because what, 100,000 is the water heater, right? So the 125 is the to fix the pipe, and 100,000 is the,
So let's get by this first motion and deal with that, and then we'll deal with the water heater, I think is the best.
Right, so I was
Yes.
referring to the additional amount to do the underground, and that's his and water. Yeah.
So what is your motion? To dig and look,
To dig and look.
and then if it's, are you?
And if it is indeed in disrepair and corroding, we're hoping that it's caused by being run so close to the electric lines and not just the acidity in the soil or something like that, and, vote to, replace it, the line itself. That's where I'm going. If there's support, I'll clean up the motion. Sorry. Making life tough.
You are.
How about if we just, not that I'm trying to
Please,
beat you on your motion, but how about to appropriate the sum of $15,000 to dig and inspect the pipe?
Okay, but.
And then once, and then once we get the result, I mean, we meet every 2 weeks.
But what's,
necessarily.
no, not necessarily.
Yeah.
This will be in the
So
summer.
what happens, they dig and all of a sudden it's all corroded and they see that, then they're gonna wait 2, 3 weeks to come?
Emergency meeting.
If you can get everyone
No.
together in the summer.
Let's just
and to
approve
do
the
it.
replacement now. If they find something.
If it's in disrepair, that's fine.
Well, then, all right, so, okay, so that's the motion, is to dig and appropriate the funds for the dig. If it's good, leave it. If not, fix it.
Yes.
Based on the results
Yep, that's what I just
of the
said.
test.
Yep.
Did you want the amount in there? Move to appropriate $15,000? Or did you want?
No, because
No.
that was a.
No, that was just.
We're authorizing for them to,
I have a question, sorry.
Because you had said appropriate, just
yeah, no,
appropriate
hold
the
on,
funds.
Kristen.
You have to dig anyways to repair it, right?
So,
So basically, if we say, we're gonna authorize you to do this, but if you dig and you realize it's not corroded, don't repair it.
Correct.
Yep.
Isn't that?
What I intended to say. I don't know what you heard, but that was my intention.
Well, I know that's what your intention was, but we're saying we're gonna approve $15,000 for this and then 150, but if you're,
If it
if you're
needs
in
it.
the process, if we just say, again, if this is corroded, we want it repaired. I think that's the general gist of the board.
Correct.
yes.
If it's corroded, we all agree,
Yes.
well, I shouldn't say that, but the majority opinion here is that it should be repaired.
Yes.
So can we just make the motion that we're authorizing you to
Dig.
dig to check it and,
Repair if needed.
and if it's corroded, move forward with the repair? If
Yes.
it's not, and we can just patch everything back up for
Whatever.
shorter money, then do that.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Is that doable?
I would still probably, in part of this, I would still want to put the filter on.
If you're not
Am
replacing.
I right? If the pipe is fine, let's still put the filter on.
Well, I think it's a no-brainer to put a filter on no matter what, because we don't want
Well,
the same problem we
unless
had
we
at
tell
Pollard.
them,
I use mag filters and sock filters with feeders for chemical feeders and everything. Whenever I usually change a boiler out, and I think we're on track for that as well.
Okay,
So-
so we have a motion to dig, and if it's good, leave it, patch it. If it's not, then fix it. Do I have a second? Mark, a second. Any other
Didn't
discussion?
Mark make the motion?
I did.
No, you cleaned it up.
Oh, okay, so this is my motion.
Yeah, it's Kristen and then Mark.
Should we add in there up to the $150,000 to replace?
That was my motion.
Should we make a motion to add the up to $150,000?
If they if it is damaged?
If it is damaged.
Should the $150,000 be in the motion? So that if they need to repair
That's
it?
a safe number that you can do, I mean, we're not,
It's a very safe number, yeah. It
Okay.
should be less than
All right, so Kristen, you're going to amend your motion to say
yeah,
up
I've
to 100.
amended my motion to say, to repair it up to $150,000.
I'll still second it.
All right, any other discussion on that? All right, all those in favor? Opposed? And abstained. All right, now, last thing is the water heater.
108,000.
It's 108,000. Do we want to make a motion to go ahead and fix that now?
I'd like to make a motion to fix the hot water heater and complete the heat system if we can do it in high school. Sorry, clean that up again.
Just make a
Let me
motion
just
for
say,
the
I'd
water
like to make a
heater.
motion to spend $108,000 to replace the high school water heater.
Got a motion, do I have a second? Seconded by Mark. Any further discussion?
And you said those water heaters might have like another 3 years on them.
So, okay.
And what happens if we, again, if we don't do it and then there's a problem? We're stuck.
You'll have to do something temporary or. There are 3 water heaters lined up in parallel again. So if one fails, we'd still have 2 left, but they've been there for
A long
20
time.
some odd years and I don't think they've probably been.
So there's 3 of them.
Yes,
So by
they're-
doing this,
they're
are we
all-
replacing
No, we're doing all 3.
all 3 or
Yes.
replaced and
It's a
then
water
everything's to
heating
go? So then
system.
if something goes wrong down the road,
Okay. Jack?
And you wouldn't say they're working very well.
They're providing hot enough water for the building.
just not the shower stalls.
I haven't taken a shower there
Jack,
yet.
did you have a?
I did.
Okay, Jack, go ahead.
We have a problem with that. We want to get the 200 hallway and the athletic area we had to pretty much shut down part of the rest of the building to get water there. As soon as we did, we had to get, reconfigure the way it was gonna go. Is that still the way you have to operate it?
I haven't heard anything like that.
Okay.
I've only been here a year and a half, but unless they're doing it just out of, that's the way it's always been, I haven't heard anything like that.
Usually that's not a capacity of the water heater issue. Usually that is caused by cross-contamination when someone hooks up to like a janitor's sink, a supply and return, or it's a bad recirc pump. So that particular issue usually isn't the size of the water heater.
All right, Jack, and then Bree, did you have a, nope, okay, let's do last comment on
So
this.
what I heard was the water heater is fine. We just spent $150,000. You guys, well, potentially, you guys are gonna be here for a little while. I would suggest that, and I know you kind of want this tonight, and I understand why, but I would suggest that we wait to see the results of the test to see exactly how much we're spending. Then if those pipes are fine, then we have, I'm just trying to allocate the money properly. But if there's nothing wrong with it, why fix something that isn't broken? And again, the scope of the project, you guys are gonna be here for a while, from what I understand. And if we end up having to fix it, if it breaks, then we can go, but I don't wanna fix something that isn't broken right now with the potential of having to spend $150,000, potentially not knowing the answer to that. So I'm just trying to be prudent or prudent with the money. If you told me there was, and the savings by putting in the new one is only $2,000. If you told me there was a 30% savings on whatever our hot water bill is, I'd be, yeah, okay, this thing's gonna pay for itself. So that's kind of where my headset's at, because I can guarantee you, and you'll probably agree with me, we're gonna have other little bumps in the road along the way. I mean, Kyle, right?
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna have some other bumps in this endeavor. So I'm trying to hang on to whatever we got.
Does anybody else have another comment? There's been a motion and a second on the floor to approve for the $108,000. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed?
Oh.
Uh-oh. Abstaining? So it failed.
Whoa, 2 to 2. That's never
Did you,
happened before.
did you vote?
Okay, we can't.
Yes,
I
you
was
voted.
trying to do the whole, get as much done as we can now.
You voted yes.
You voted yes, so how many of us voted yes? 1, 2, 3,
3-2-2.
3, 2, 2.
So it passes.
Oh, it passed. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't see you.
Thank you.
Okay.
God, that's the most competitive
so.
vote I've ever been.
All right, next is policies.
I don't disagree.
Did you abstain?
I'm just telling you.
I did, okay.
So Katie, there are 3 before the board tonight, just again for a second read, that were here last time with us.
Okay. So this is for a second read, which was before the board last time for BEA, which is school board meetings. That's just updating our agenda. The next one is JFAB, which is admission and tuition and non-resident students. And the last one is KDCA, which is display and distribution of informational materials and announcements. And nothing changed with these, did they? No, nothing changed from last time. Can I get a motion to accept these for second read, please? We can discuss them.
I will make that motion to accept these for second read.
Okay. Bree makes a motion to accept these policies for second read. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Kim. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'm just, good. There was nothing changed with the grandfathering after we talked the last time.
Which one are you looking at?
It went back to policy committee, they had policy committee today, so it wasn't brought forward this time. It's for the,
It's for JFAC, right?
Yeah.
JFAC.
so it wasn't ready for tonight's meeting.
Okay.
Yes, we did talk about that. You good? Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained, 700. All right. Budget transfer. Where'd Maria go?
She and I were gonna go there, just go to the next thing.
Okay.
That's fine. Just-
Okay, we're gonna skip budget transfer. We'll come back to it. The next thing we're gonna talk about is the special education indicator 11 report. Come
be quick.
on down.
Like really quick. We were on corrective action last year for it.
Okay.
It's initial evaluations. When a child gets evaluated, we have a certain amount of time, have to fit within that. Last year, we were not successful in doing that. We put in the timeline that I talked about, wherever was our last meeting, and we got 100%. So celebrate. But you can look from August to November, we did 29 initial evaluations.
Oh, wow.
So yeah.
Bree?
I just want to commend you. Great job, especially with having a lot of openings in the department. So just great job getting all that done.
Yeah, no, it's not me. I wasn't evaluating all of them. It was everybody else who was working, above and beyond to do this, because we had a pretty big corrective action plan that we had to do, so we did it. So,
And with a lot of new people, too.
a lot of new people, yes, yep.
So, good
So,
job.
Way to celebrate.
Yep, thank you and your team.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was quick. All right, next thing is policy, GCF, the summer hiring process. Hi, Fran.
So I know that we've been thinking about our, trying to get people's contracts through the board, nominations through the boards quicker, just because of the labor market that we're in. In the summertime, we do have a policy that allows us to, because we only have one meeting a month, starting in June, I think it's June, that we can send nominations to 3 board members, and they can approve it. And then at the next meeting, we would, obviously have the names and the rest of the information ready for you guys to review and to put into the record. So I'd like to start doing that sooner if possible, like now, just because it's hard waiting 2 weeks to get, people don't want to wait 2 weeks. They have multiple interviews, we need to get people in here. And so the sooner we can do that, the better. I do know several other districts that do it that way, so I think that would be fine, especially since we are going to be putting into the actual record at the next meeting. So what I would need is like who the 3 people would want to be for the board members, and then we can obviously have an alternate as well.
So we'd have to waive policy.
Because it does say, I believe it does say it starts in June.
Yeah, it says June 15th, from June 15th to September 1st.
Right.
So basically, you're looking to see that be May 15th. And is that something,
I'll say this, that, anything you can do to make that a more efficient hiring process, the more chance you have of
getting,
Yes.
getting a person hired
Yep.
that you want.
agreed, I 100% agree. I'm just wondering if this should also go to policy. I mean, we can waive policy now, but if this should go to policy for a change and maybe be May 1st in the future or something.
I think it's a great idea.
I mean,
Don's
because
point-
if this is always gonna be our
Right.
crunch, I mean,
Right.
in November and whatever, you're not really having that same issue, correct?
Right.
I mean, would you have the emergency?
No, this is definitely, we're all fighting for the same people, especially around this time of year, right? So once people get their
Right.
contracts, then we're going to start seeing who's coming back, who's not coming back.
Right.
So if we can move it up to May 1st, I think that would be great. I guess if we start to find that we need it sooner than that, we can certainly adjust it again.
Right, we
Right.
could.
But I think May 1st through the end of September would be great. Because that's, we definitely need to move people quickly.
Jack, did you have a comment?
No, I was going to make a motion to waive the policy. It's a no-brainer.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, you just did.
Okay, do you have a second?
Can we say for the 23-24 school year? Can we add that? So
Just say to waive policy, to begin from May 1st to September 1st this year,
2023
2023, and then we can address it
in
in
policy.
September. I mean, if we're still, for some reason, we go through a hiring situation, we can always bring it back up, but at least that clears it up now and then gives it time to go to policy and consider bumping it.
So Linda, the motion should say May 1st through September 1st of 2023, being waived. Okay, and
I'm
then.
sorry, I thought you wanted end of September.
I'd ask for the end of September.
Oh,
start,
end of September, I'm sorry, thank you.
If that's okay.
Yes.
Because we could still be hiring people in
September
September.
30th, let's just do it.
So the motion's made, who seconded it? Anybody second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Rio second. Is there any discussion on waiving on the motion that stands at this time? All those in
How-
favor?
Just how will we know who are
You
the
have to
three?
make that decision.
Well,
It's
you
a
have to-
separate piece.
Well, let's waive it, and then we'll make the motion for the three. So all those in favor? Opposed and abstained. So we got 8-0. Welcome, Shauna. Okay, now for the three. I figured the chair, vice chair, and then a third, whoever the third wants to be, and then one alternate, just because it gets the summertime and
Yeah, we need an alternate.
so.
I think budget should be on it as well.
Welcome, Mark.
Welcome, Mark.
You're welcome.
You're okay with that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And
And
is
then-
Paul the alternate budget?
Do you want to be?
I'll be an alternate if you need an alternate.
Okay.
That's,
So someone make a motion for the four of us.
I'll make a motion for the chair, the vice chair, Mark Sherwood, and Don Woodworth
how about
As
the
alternate.
Are those paid positions?
to be the committee for summer hiring.
I'll second that.
Okay. Made by Kim, seconded by Jack. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Raise your hand, Mark. Opposed and abstained, 8-0. Thank you, Fran.
Then that's the vacancy report.
yeah, just-
Okay, go ahead. Go on.
If anybody had any questions about it?
What's changed, anything?
Has anything changed?
We probably have added a couple of positions to it, honestly. But other than-
Special education again, or?
Actually, we've had a science teacher, trying to remember what else we've had.
Are these the ones
math
that we're gonna
teacher.
see in the personnel report later? No.
Well, this is the vacancy.
I know, but.
Oh, you already approved the nomination?
We just did the
approved
one.
You did Laura, oh,
Yeah, so
okay.
that's what I'm saying,
Apologize.
so it's,
There's a couple of resignations and a couple of new hires in the nomination report, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've gotten a few in the last couple of, I know we got one for science recently, I think that's our science. Contracts should go out next week, and that's when I expect we'll probably see maybe more of them.
Okay.
We just lost, an OT today, no, I'm sorry, special education teacher today because of salary, a new hire, so that was disappointing.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Fran?
Yeah, I do. Well, I don't know if this may be a non-public one.
All
Could
right.
you, by percentage, give us how much we're losing these teachers by from a pay? Because this is a continuous theme, and I know we can't talk about salaries or offers, but like, what is the, we losing these folks by 10%, 15?
You won't always know. The person's telling you they're not gonna make a decision to stay with you because they have a better offer somewhere else. You won't always know what they're.
Well, I'm asking, do we know anything?
I mean, the only thing I can tell you is that, so a lot of the HRs in school districts, we all kind of meet informally. And so we do have benchmark information. But so I could tell you that what a bachelor's is for, Pelham, and then what a master's would be, beginning and the end of the scale. But I can't tell you necessarily what somebody is getting because it's based on education and experience. So, but I can tell you that I can give that information. So that part I
Yeah.
can give you, but that's really, and we considered that when we did the TTA. Agreement, we looked at where we were and how low down we were, and pretty significant.
So is there any benchmarks out there, say, we just lost someone in special ed, which is obviously extremely crucial. Do we know what that, and I know it's different with levels of teaching and levels of experience and geographically, but is there any averages, and can we extrapolate? Are we losing them by 10%, 15%? I mean, that's,
It's really hard to project. And the other thing too is, one of it is salary, but you also have to look at, I don't necessarily know what the whole compensation package is either. I mean, salary with the driving force, our compensation
Right.
package, I think is pretty good with our benefits. I mean, we all belong to the retirement system, we all probably get the same amount of sick time and personal time, tuition reimbursement, and that could vary in different contracts, right? But let's put it this way, our salary scale hasn't changed in over 2 years. Right, so, and everybody else's probably has gone up.
And we were behind them.
Yeah.
And Fran, I would add specific to some of the instances you're talking about, I mean, these are positions that are on critical shortage lists.
Yeah.
So we are already offering them 2 steps beyond where their current experience
So that's
is,
still
and we're
process.
still coming up short.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maria, budget transfer.
So, as you all know, our electric rate increase this year. So we are projecting through the end of the year to have $100,000 shortfall for our electric bill. So I'm requesting a transfer to cover for the electricity up to June 30th. And we're requesting it from attrition savings in salary accounts.
Okay.
And I guess if we say no, these laptops become useless.
And the cameras and the lights and the projector. I don't have to come to work, that's fine.
Nobody will know what we're doing either.
Someone want to make this motion? Maria's been kind enough to put the verbiage in the bottom.
I'll make it. To move the $100,000, I mean, anything more than that?
To accept the budget transfer in the amount of the account specified in the CFOBA's budget transfer request dated May 4th, 2023.
You're such an attorney.
Is that your motion, Jack? Because I'll second it.
Wow, that was, you know what? You
Motion made by
very-
Jack, seconded by Kristen. Any other discussion on this motion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained. Thank you.
Maria, before you go, sorry, we should have talked about this before and we didn't. We kind of hinted on it. So the pipe water heater situation, where is that going to come from? Where do you recommend that comes from? What are your thoughts?
So we
'Cause
have
need
two
to-
options. We can ask them to wait until after July 1st, so we can use the funds in the capital fund, or we can use unassigned fund balance or attrition savings, which comes from that, to allocate for that. So we have those two options.
Yeah, if we wait till July 1st, as I added up that Excel sheet, we're about $200,000 over on the total expenditure of the 25 million, right? So if we take it out of that,
That's completely
Two different
different of the
things.
25 million. 25 million is a lease.
oh,
That's-
okay, when you said July 1st, I thought you would take it out of that.
No,
warrant
we'll take
article
it
money.
out of our capital
Oh,
budget.
okay. Out of
Or
the
we
mill-
can just take it out of our tuition savings or any savings
From
that we
this year.
have for this year.
Which I'd rather,
I
I
can
think I'd
encumber,
rather
yeah.
see it done for this year and then start next year.
I can
I don't want to
request-
start next year in a hole.
I can request a transfer like this one for the 200 and, actually it's not 230 because we had 30 in one-time savings. So it will be a $200,000 transfer from attrition savings to capital, so
So
we
can
can
you come
cover
back
for
with
that.
a
Yep,
sheet
I
like
will.
this, a budget transfer
have
next
it
for
ready
next
for it.
meeting with that in it?
Which I actually also, well, I'm gonna talk to you about on the preparation meeting for next meeting, but I will also bring forward a transfer for the track repairs, because we have to pay everything up front and then the grant will reimburse us after.
Okay.
So I would like to encumber the funds for that,
Yep.
for the boilers, because again, we have to pay them up front and then we can request the reimbursement from the capital fund.
Yep.
So I have to encumber for the track, for the boilers, and for this 200. So I will be requesting a budget
So
transfer.
those three things will be on for the agenda next. Okay.
So I just have one quick question about the track.
Mm-hmm.
If we take that money out of capital, right, and then when we get reimbursed, does that go back into the capital, or does that go back into the general fund?
It goes back to capital.
Okay.
Everything melts down into one bottom line.
Okay.
But the expense will hit capital because it's a capital expense.
Okay, thank you. Okay, administrators report. Oh, no, sorry, school board goals. We put that back on there just to kind of remind everybody. If you have any other suggestions or anything, please email me before the next board meeting. I know I've got Jack's. He's emailed me. Me and Kristen have talked about some, so just if there's any, please email me so that we can get those together and get them finalized and approved. Did you have anything you want to talk about goals, Kristen? Are you good?
Well, I wanted to,
Okay.
yeah, yes and no,
Okay.
but I wasn't right there. I was concerned about the finances that I forgot to. I'll just throw, one of my things that I want to see, and then I've talked to Kate about this, as far as a school board goal, and I've talked to Justin and Sandy as well about this, and I've talked to Chris about it before too. As a parent around the high schoolers and the middle schoolers, and I'm often getting feedback from people that basically say, you know, my kids were able to do what they do. Like when I try to say, this is going to happen to you if you do this, and they're kind of like, nah, like they get a blasé attitude, or certain things are like dress code. Like, you can't wear that to school. Yes, I can, because people don't say anything. So it's kind of like this attitude. And it's like you hear all the different pieces of it, but I want that all to start coming back together. I feel like there's a part of it that we've kind of lost control. Like you hear about, Carl comes in here and talks about things getting destroyed in the bathrooms and the lack of discipline there, or again, the dress code or the attendance, or if you're out here in the parking lot at the end of school, it's like you take your life in your hands the way these kids drive through here. And I mean, it's crazy stuff. And I don't know, I mean, they're kids, and I get it, and I have kids, and I get how kids, but in the same sense, there's a level of, I know it was happening before COVID. I'm not saying it's because of COVID, but I think with COVID and that time off, I think there was the attitude of like, well, I don't really have to go to class because it's hybrid. I can come and go. I can do whatever. I can this and that. And I think the kids just kind of started to take control in a sense. I mean, for lack of a better term, like they feel like they can just do what they want because we were lax during that period. And I just think it's time to start getting back on track with that. We have policies for a reason. We're in here talking about trying to enforce them, trying to do stuff, and I think we need to start doing that. And again, the dress code, I know that was something Chris had wanted to talk with the student group and try to work something out. He thought if we could all collaborate, we could come up with something. That's been a year and a half. I mean, it's just to a point where it's time to start
Increasing
having
the
our
culture
policies
of
and
accountability.
accountability. Well, if the kids don't, if they say, well, you have an attendance policy or you have this policy, but you're not going to enforce it, why are they going to? They're just going to do what they want. And I know there's a balance because I've heard it. Well, we have to let them express themselves or this or that, and and then you go down to this thing, and anyone that's watching is going to go, oh my God, I can't believe she said that, but I'm going to say it. Because you talk about these things and you hear stuff, and I've heard teachers, I've heard administrators say it, like a dress code would be great. I mean, a uniform would be great because it eliminates the bullying. It eliminates, like, kids all have to come to school looking the same, So it's kind of like you take all this stuff out, and then it's easy to enforce something like that to say, well, you're not in X, Y, Z. I mean, that's an extreme. I don't want to go there, but I think we just need to figure out where we're going with this and start kind of getting Timberlane back on track, because it's all about the culture. And that's what we talk about. And when you have these kids that, if they feel that they're the ones running the school and it's their school, that's the culture, and that's what they're doing. And I think that makes it hard for our teachers. I think it makes it hard for our administrators. And I think it makes it hard for the parents, because they say that. Like, if I tell my kid to do their homework and they say, oh, I don't have to because I can do it in 3 weeks and hand it in and still get the grade, well, what's that? And then we turn around and say, well, our parents aren't doing anything to help push this, but you hear the argument from both sides. So it's just something not sure how I want to word it in here yet, but I'm letting you know that that's something that I want to try to add as a school board goal, to just see some direction come back.
I like
So,
Jack, did you have a comment you wanted to say?
Yeah, I do. So I just feel like the tail has been wagging the dog with the kids. And not only should I think we should incorporate some of it, because I hear the same things you hear, Kristen. Not only do we need to incorporate discipline and rules, but then you need to have the political courage to stand by what you've put out there. There was a discussion. I didn't know policy was meeting, but I sat there and I'm listening to the news the other day, and they're talking about the social media and how it's so disruptive and harmful to the kids, and they're always on the phone, And I'm sitting there saying, you know what, we gotta buckle down. I said, well, maybe we need to ease into, if we have got to, we can't even tell our kids, we're afraid to tell them that they can't use their phones, or look at social media. Now, I was in the high school for a year, and I saw some teachers were phenomenal. They had that shoe rack that goes on the door, and you walk into class, and every kid puts that shoe thing in there. And then I had classes where 25 kids in the middle, they were like this and then they start playing games with each other. There needs to be constant, we talked about in-house suspension, out-of-school suspensions. There needs to be a consequence when you step over the line. I'm not an educator, I don't pretend to be, but I do know that discipline and consequences were effective in the 60s. And I don't know, I think we've gone astray, but I think you bring up an excellent point, and I think that would be a phenomenal goal, is to start having kids follow the rule. I mean, the fact we even have to talk about this is a little kooky, but follow the rules, toe the mark. You're in school to come here, you come here to work. A little bit of it should be fun, but you're here to learn, you're here to work. And I think if you do that, I think now those teachers get the support and the ability to excel. That's just my 2 cents, maybe 5 cents, but.
Thanks, Jack. Yes, Shauna, go ahead.
You sure?
Okay. Sorry, Bria, I didn't see your hand.
That's okay. Mine will be short and sweet. I've been reading them and reflecting and thinking on it, and they're all fantastic, but there's a lot on this list. And so sometimes when you have too many things that you're working on, maybe not everything gets addressed. So I don't know if maybe we bear down a little bit and actually narrow down and have a few less goals, see if we can meet them, and then reestablish other goals. Like I love this, conversation that we're having. I think we're all hearing this type of information from that older adolescent student population. And maybe if we have a little bit more focus, I see 5, 10, 13, 14, 15, and there's 20 goals on here. Sometimes I just feel like that might be too many. I don't know if we maybe need to spare down and focus on a few things at once and then reassess. So I just wanted to make that comment.
But I do like all the goals that are on there too, so.
Bree?
I just wanted to take a point to address what we spoke about last meeting about the culture climate and that presentation with the PowerPoint and how I believe we are implementing that, yes, or was that just an idea to implement?
Yeah, we're moving.
So I think we are making a shift and trying to incorporate student involvement, and we all know that when there is attachment and pride and a feeling of belonging, that's when students excel, right? And that's when the behavior maybe shifts. You don't vandalize something that you've tried really hard to build up. So I think, again, we are moving in the right direction. It might not be overnight like we all want it. And if I don't have teenagers yet, thank God, so I'm not sure. But wait, the tighter you hold them, generally the more they lash out. So I can't get behind the uniform thing just yet. But I understand the talk about it. But again, I think it's the process. It's how you start and raise a kid and the values. So again, how are we instilling that at the beginning, at the lower levels to carry throughout the district and the program?
Yeah, so all good discussion, and like I said, still, give me that feedback, an email so that we can get this collaborated, but also too, in thinking about these, like to Shauna's point about having a bunch of goals, we should have short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals. That way it's a continuous process for boards that come after us, so, but that's it for that.
Maybe there are a way we can combine a few of those goals into one goal. Maybe we should all look at it.
Some of these goals have dates and then, and stuff like that. So, but yeah, like I said, when we do these and we think about the end in mind. So it might be stuff that's a long-term goal or, like I said, short or whatever. All right. Does anybody have any other questions about the goals? Like I said, please email me your questions and comments before, like I said, next meeting.
Justin, one of our goals was about ensuring the timely and clear communication to the community, and I know Chris was working on that before. we're trying to do some templates.
Okay.
Yes.
And I think we
Yep.
talked about this, and I'm just saying, is that something that's kind of ongoing right now?
Correct.
So, I mean, that might be something, it's in the works, it's happening, so kind of like one of those goals that we might be able to check off.
Yes.
So it'd be nice to be able to look at these too and say, which ones of these do we feel like we
Right.
have accomplished and move them along, but I was just scrolling through and that one kind of jumped out at me, so that's all.
All right, any other comments about the goals? Seeing none, we're going to move on to administrators report.
So 3 things tonight, one past, one present, one future. So looking in the past, the high school has received the 2023 Gold National Council of Excellence Award. That's given by the National Student Council, and this is the Timberlane Regional High School's 3rd year in a row of receiving that award. And it is recognizing the leadership and the service and the contribution to the learning community from students in partnership with adults. So a really great recognition for the high school, great recognition for those kids.
Awesome.
And the fact that it's 3 years running it kind of speaks volumes there. So congratulations to those people
And
out there. Sure.
prior to those 3 years, I don't think we had ever accomplished it.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a tremendous, effort on their part to fill the requirements that are national requirements to even be able to apply. So,
Who is their advisor?
it's awesome.
Nicole
Oh,
Jones.
looking at Lou. Does that ring a bell?
But it used to be Jenny.
National Honor Society? Student Council.
Student Council.
Oh, is it,
I believe still.
Mrs. Libby?
I propose we find out who it is and send her a thank you letter.
I'm going to go and visit, so
Okay.
I'll do that in person. How about that?
Okay, go ahead.
Present is in terms of the early childhood coordinator update at TLC or Sandown Central. We've moved through round 1, we've moved through round 2. We have identified what we believe is a really highly qualified candidate. We're in the last stages of having those conversations, but we would expect a nomination coming to this group or potentially the smaller group more quickly and in the very near future in the next day or two.
Okay.
And lastly, I'll leave you with a preview for next time on May 18th. We started last meeting bringing in a student or a parent or a program or staff member to talk about something great that's happened in Timberlane. Next time that we're together, Allie Galvin, who's a high school student, will be here with us. One of her teachers, Mr. Castano, will be joining on a video. And Allie's going to walk you through her argumentative paper that she wrote for, I believe, a junior level class, an AP class there. Started with a thesis that was around that schools do not do enough for students' social, emotional, and mental health. And through the learning process that she went through, she got to the point where her thesis became that schools are not provided enough to provide for students' mental health and awareness. So she's going to present that kind of journey and that process for her, where that paper ended up, how the staff members and the administrators that she partnered with in Timberlane helped kind of steer her that way and present all the research that she found along that. So Allie will join us on the 18th.
Great. Bree, go ahead.
Just real quick, how do you recognize the students?
What do you mean
The
recognize?
3 students, sorry, the national ranked students. Do you announce at?
It wasn't students, it was a
Oh, teacher.
program.
That's the program.
It was the
How do
program
you
itself.
But how do you recognize the hard work? Do you make an announcement? Do you send it in the newspaper? Do you post it on the
Usually it's like in the
website?
principal's newsletter and an announcement at the school, an announcement
asking him.
here.
Justin?
2 things happen. One, it will go out from the school, per Don. But typically, if folks here have that knowledge, like we are trying to do the things that we feel is the right thing, is to go to the school personally, find the people that are involved, and actually have a handshake and a thank you that way. So.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Sorry, but
All good news, thank you. Personnel report, we went ahead and already voted on the nomination for the principal at Sandown. We were glad to have her. We do have 2 professional nominations and then 4 professional resignations.
Make a motion to accept the professional nominations for Eileen McCart, 3rd grade teacher at Sandown North, and Erin Foster, school psychologist, district-wide position.
I'll second that.
Motion by Shauna, seconded by Jack. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained. 8-0-0. All right, and then the professional resignations.
Make a motion to accept the professional resignations of Gia Buckley, special education teacher at Pollard, Kristen Paulson, 5th grade teacher at Sandown North, Monica Rogers, science teacher at Timberlane High School, and Mia Brennan, school nurse at Sandown North, and thank them all for their time here in the district.
The motion, to have a second?
Mark.
Mark, second. Mark threw her hand up. All right, is there any discussion? All those-
Just wanted to thank Monica from, the time she arrived, she was a hardworking, very talented teacher for Timberland and high school. So we'll miss her.
All staff will be missed for sure. All those in favor? All those opposed? And abstain, 800. All right. Committee reports. Oh, yes, we do. Thank you, thank you. We have one renom.
Make a motion to accept the, do you have to say the teacher's name or just the,
Can we just say, we just accept the renomination, or do we have to say the names?
It's just one.
I guess just say the one.
okay, so I'll make a motion to accept the renomination of Melissa Dalton, teacher at Pollard School.
Got a motion?
Second that.
Seconded by Jack. All those in favor? Opposed? And abstain, 800. All right, thank you, Kelly. Now, committee reports. I'm gonna start with Bree this time.
I have nothing, and I'm wondering when strategic planning is meeting again.
Does anyone know when strategic planning?
Strategic plan doesn't have a scheduled meeting again because we'll be bringing, I think, back for a second read, either in May 18th or the first meeting in June. And we'll be presenting any of the feedback that we had at that point.
So should they have a meeting because of the feedback, or have you already had that meeting?
So that group has kind of tasked 4 kind of bucket leaders to kind of drive the process moving forward. So those 4 people are going to kind of cement around the feedback that we've received, both from this committee and reaching out to the staff and the families. And then we'll kind of coalesce those pieces. We
When
could,
will that be?
when we're the 4 of them, it's ongoing. It's happening all the time. It's not just a single standing meeting to do it.
Kim?
Curriculum assessment met yesterday. There will be a first read coming to the board in the next couple weeks for a curriculum change in, Mark, tell me again? Portfolio. Sorry. And that's pretty much it for right now.
Thank you. Mark?
No, ma'am.
Shauna?
I have nothing for committees, but I don't know if this was already mentioned because I was late due to the baseball game I was coaching, but
Shame,
we have, I know, shame, shame.
Did you win?
We sure did. And my kid pitched, so that was a
Oh.
I can't. We have the High School Musical this weekend opening. Yes?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
My Fair Lady.
Open
So I
tonight.
just wanted
Tonight's
to put a
first
plug
night.
in for folks out in the community to go head out over to that show.
Yeah.
Check it
it's gonna be
out.
Great.
Great. And congratulations to your team. Policy met right before this, and we've got some good things going on there. The dress code did get brought up. I believe a subcommittee for the high school is being formed, so that's starting to move through. And then safety, we meet next week on Tuesday.
Tuesday the 9th.
Yep, Tuesday the 9th. And that's all I have.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yes.
On the policy, I had been on there before, and we
Yeah, go
talked about the dress code, and there was a good deal of effort put into trying to get the high school involvement, and we had worked through that with the student council.
Yes.
Then it kind of fell off the map.
Yes.
Are they re-engaged now? And
Yes,
if not,
so-
can we move on with that? Okay.
Yes, so actually what they came forward and was looking for was the policy committee's blessing to go ahead and let them start doing that. So
Perfect.
that's what we gave them, so
Perfect.
just waiting for
Awesome.
that work to be done.
So are they gonna try to do that to have that in place for next year? Or is this something that they're touching base now and we're dealing with, and now it's gonna go a whole nother year and before it gets done?
No, my understanding is that they are making this, this high school is working on, like, after this blessing, they're gonna start working on it, and I'm going to ask to put that it would be ready to go for, as soon as the
For
next,
fall.
for the fall.
Okay.
That would be what that is.
Just
Because like you said, it's been going on for at least over a year. I know you've been asking, so
Yeah, well, it's just, yeah.
it needs to be done.
Well, it needs to be done, like I said. I think, I mean, it hasn't been looked at in a long time.
Yeah.
And then we had the COVID period and then this, so it would just be a nice thing, so.
They were very excited to move forward, and so they were just looking for that
So,
committee
I
to
just-
say go.
okay. Great. I really don't have anything. We have safety committee, as you said, on Tuesday. and I'm looking at my schedule and trying to figure out how this is gonna work, because after safety committee, we have facilities, Jack, on Tuesday.
Yes, ma'am.
And then I have a school board planning meeting. So depending on the length of the safety agenda and the facilities meeting, we might have to bump out the school board planning meeting just a little bit to allow me. So I will be here all day, so if anyone wants to bring me lunch, apparently I am living here on Tuesday. So
Or you can
there
move
we
your
go.
facility
Little
meeting.
surf and turf action.
Yeah, I'm just kind of, hey, so that's all I got.
Jack?
Yeah, I have nothing relative to that, but regarding policy, clearly we received a correspondence this week about policy, Jesus, KFR, and what we charge for fields, that whole ball of wax, which is a very complex issue. I know we're challenged with that, working on fields for the last 25 years around here. I understand the challenges, but I'd like to make a motion that we waive all, regarding that policy, all in-district nonprofit organizations for the time being. We have, all our kids in this district are students. They all are part of the district. I don't think it's fair we segue them out. And a lot of these, as it speaks to 90-foot diamonds and football fields, they don't exist anywhere else in the district. If you curtail this by asking them to go somewhere else or making it financially prohibitive for them to participate, some of these teams will go away. And I'm giving you the short version of what I had prepared for this tonight.
So it's not an agenda item. I'm gonna jump in, Jack, because
Oh,
it's not,
can I?
no, let me just finish though, because the policy, I just want to clear this up. Because the policy was sent out to everyone so that everyone could, it's a long policy, and as you said, there's a lot of information. And it is a long, detailed conversation that's not on the agenda and has to be put on the agenda. And that was the idea, was to get it out to everyone to look at. And the plan was to get it on a future agenda. There's nothing happening
Right now.
today that would change that policy. We would need to vote on that today. It's not like we have a group that's sitting here that we have to make a
So,
policy.
right.
Hold on,
So,
wait, let her finish.
Just saying,
Let her
there's a
finish.
lot of information on there, and we want to put it on the agenda. So that's kind of our plan, was get it into everyone's hands to start giving people the time to absorb it and think about it. And then we want to get it on, either it was going to go on the next agenda or in August. So, because I'm just saying that because you said you wanted to make a motion.
Well,
And I want everyone to be aware that that's the plan,
I
if Jack were to make a motion.
Yeah, so, with that said, we got this correspondence, which I take exception to in a whole bunch of different ways, but to be positive and upbeat, we have had a policy in place, although the policy really hasn't been followed at all, and I believe rightfully so. So you could say, we don't want to change the policy, it's the written policy, but it's not the practice policy. So what I want to do is make sure that that practice policy, until we have a chance to do exactly what you're saying, right, remains the same. I would hate to see an organization, a team, and it's happened a number of times, and again, I don't want to get into the details of it, and I'm more than happy to, is that we continue for the nonprofit in-district children, like, say, the Timberwolves. I went out to the field on Tuesday. They had 6 teams out there, girls, boys, 5, 6, 7 years old, really no impact to the field. I would hate to see all of a sudden, because
Well,
of
Jack,
wait, let me finish.
oh, go ahead.
Because of what's happened, all of a sudden, we start following the written policy. That's why I brought that up tonight. I'm always gonna, if I'm gonna default, it's always gonna be to the kids and what's in their best emotional, social, mental and physical well-being. And I just wanna make sure that we continue on the way we're going right now, because I'm fine with that.
So I think every single board member here is, the main goal is for the kids' benefit.
No question.
And so, like Kristen said, this needs to be an agenda item. It was going to be an agenda item. So I think it needs to be left as that, but Mark, go ahead.
If I could, what I heard was you just want to make certain that we continue along the path we have, which is not charging in-district kids, nonprofit, until we have a chance to discuss it as a board.
That's exactly.
Okay.
I don't think,
Correct. The policy is we should be charging everyone, and we haven't been. Jack just wants to make certain that in the intervening 2 weeks or so, we don't change our practice to follow the policy, which we have not been. Is that correct, Jack?
There you go,
So
Mark.
the policy is getting ready to be talked about, whether the next board meeting or the board meeting after that. Making a motion to do that, I don't think is appropriate. Since it's gonna be, since we're gonna, nothing like what Kristen said, nothing's changing. We're not changing anything or doing anything at this time. So whatever practice has been put in place is gonna continue until we come and we talk about it. So that's what I think needs to stay. I don't think there needs to be a motion that Jack has made, but that's, I think we need to move
All right,
on from
then-
it.
And then I'll rescind my motion with the understanding that all of a sudden that policy doesn't start getting enforced to the letter of the law, because as I read that, I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Anything else? Did you have something to say?
You good? You mentioned policy, you mentioned the curriculum assessment committee, so all set.
Thank you. Let's see, don't have any correspondence, other business. So about the strategic plan, so Bree had questions beforehand about, it was brought before the board and we were to make notes. She has some suggestions, so I guess how does she get the suggestions to you?
Let's connect.
There you go.
And then, since we're on other business, I was also asking, do we have a task force committee, something for critical shortages?
In terms of the hiring process to get people
In terms
on?
of the hiring process, in terms of what's our plan B, in terms of can we funnel funds to accommodate that, to how can we ask our staff to do 10% more work without offering them anything?
You're asking if there is like a dedicated group of people that's what they're doing? No.
Okay, can we get one?
Nominate Bree.
Yes.
Asking like, are we continually thinking about
I
all
know
those
you-
things as a leadership team? The answer is yes. You're asking us to do that at this, like the management level, or you want folks at this level to be part of that?
I would like it to be a discussion to see what the board finds or the community feels is appropriate.
So it sounds like that should be an agenda item.
Great. I did ask for it.
Okay. Did you have anything else? Does anybody else have any other business that they wish to talk about at this time?
Just to echo that kind of thinking and sentiment is embodied in the strategic plan itself.
I know when I was reading it very thoroughly. So,
She made quite a bit of notes. All right,
So-
go ahead.
No, just a general comment, I mean, following, for clarification for people, that if there's something and an issue that you think needs to get put on the agenda, just make sure it gets emailed to us, so because we meet, like, we're meeting Tuesday now for our meeting, not next Thursday, but Thursday, to start setting the agenda. So if we know Bree wants to talk about XYZ, or Jack wants to talk about ABC, that's how we get it on the agenda, and that's the best way to do it, and we can figure it out. We might come back to you and say, look, we know you want this, but we're talking about this, this, and this, or we're doing this, so maybe we're gonna bump it up, just to kind of keep it on a path in that sense, and make a plan, because maybe or knowing that you want it, it might be something that we know, well, we're bringing this up too, so that it would be good to do them
Together.
at the same time. And to address all of that at the same time, so that the agenda can be built, so that we can have a productive meeting and not, and I'm looking at you only because you were the last person that's going to. But, I mean, it's just so that we can figure out what the agenda is, have a fair agenda, and make sure we're gonna have the right people here for the topics that are gonna come up too, rather than talking about it and not having that. Another thing that we used to do, which was very good, is if people had a question, rather than putting it on the agenda, we used to be able to do executive summaries.
Yes.
So if you have a question, give it to us, because maybe it's not a full agenda item, but it's a quick question that we can then say, hey, Justin, somebody wanted to know this, can you reach out to John and get the information? And he does an executive summary, so we're not pulling a department head or a principal or somebody in here to sit here for 4 hours at night when it's a quick something. So we welcome that. If you want things on the agenda, we'll put them on. But like I said, just give us the heads up and shoot it to us. But do it so that we're getting it, like we meet on Tuesday, we get a draft one probably at the end of the week, and then we try to work on it and get it out
Monday
to
or
everyone
Tuesday.
beforehand, so that's all I'm saying, so.
I'd like to make a motion to do everything, the board to do everything we possibly can to make the chair, the co-chair, and the superintendent's life easier. Can we do that?
All right.
I'm so smooth.
All right.
Fresh over there, Dawn.
I know. All right, any other business? Okay, we will need to go into non-public. Is it under, let's see. I don't know. It's under reputation, maybe? in the
I'd like to go
term?
under C,
What'd you say?
2C, I would like to go under.
2C, is that right?
RSA 91A 32C.
You want to make the motion to go on non-public under that?
Yes, please.
Second.
You gotta read it.
What you just said.
I would like to make a motion to go into non-public
3-2C.
under RSA
Okay,
91A
ma'am.
32C.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
I will second that.
Shauna seconds it. And Linda, would you please call for the vote?
Yes, Don Woodworth,
Say yes. Say yes.
John Sapia,
Yes.
Kristen Savage,
Yes.
Katie Newton.
Yes.
Donna Manthorn.
Yes.
Mark Sherwood.
Yes.
Kristen McCormick.
Kim, yes.
Bree Woodward. Yes.
All right, thank you, everyone. We will not be coming back. Have a good evening.
Sorry.